I put in the chat. Uh, I was just reading the quiz of the day. Uh, anyways, I put in the chat a revised version, a somewhat revised version of the planning sheet for planning professional learning. And all I did was rearrange some of the questions so they were more, so the document was a little bit more homogeneous. And what I thought we would do today, I did receive another plan, but I'm pretty sure that Kessera and Buren want us to follow this plan where you clearly specify a learning goal and then you state, so what is it you want them to learn? How are you going to go about doing that in the professional learning? A very detailed plan. And then how are you going to assess if you're successful? Right. So those are our big three criteria. Where what's your learning goal? How are you actually going to make it work in the professional learning? And then how are you going to know it works? So that's your evidence. And yesterday we talked with Anne. Anne was with us, and we were the background was basically the water quality unit. Today we are moving on to we're supposed to be involved in interactions. And so I think the best way to proceed today is for us to get some experiences in actually doing what I sent out. So I'd like to break us into groups. I'm not exactly sure the best way to break the groups up, but basically give you a half an hour to work. And in that half an hour to work, you basically focus on making sure you write one learning goal based upon the questions I asked or that were asked in that sheet, and then begin to outline what are you going to do in professional learning to actually meet that. And then finally, write a little bit about what's going to be your evidence. And then unless there's some group that already has done that, if someone has already done that for interactions, we can sort of start off by sharing it. But I didn't receive anything, so I don't know if that's happened or not. And I don't know if Buren or Kessera received anything.
No, I haven't.
So, right, so I think the best way to proceed is to get some exemplars or examples of how to go about doing that. So if we could work for about 30 minutes, Buren can break us up into groups.
Should we
And
go by country?
We could go by country. I would think that make a lot
Okay.
of sense. And I'll go into each of the breakout rooms. I'll give you around 30 minutes to see what kind of progress. I'll give you at least 10 minutes to get started, right? To start thinking about what you're doing. And again, I would love Kessera and Buren to speak up about this. I'll share my screen. So this is this planning sheet. And once again, it's made up of a bunch of potentials. It's made up of a number of potential questions that you can use to guide your the planning of your professional learning. And one of the critical aspects is once again, we want to get the students involved in some of these more evidence-based experiences like writing explanations, writing models, etc. But what learning goal you choose to take is really up to you. But I would like you to take one of the questions, rephrase it in terms of a learning goal. Yesterday, Anne gave us one example related to contextualization. So if we go up to number 5, the question, or I'm sorry, number 6, the question is, how will you help teachers establish an engaging context for student learning? And why developing context is important? And then the learning goal then is expressed to teachers will be able to set an appropriate context and be able to explain why setting meaningful context is important to promote student learning. And So that's, if you can see that down in your table as well. And of course, the goal then is to say, what will you do, right? What we do to accomplish this goal, and how will I know if I achieved this goal? So you're to create a learning goal, and then at least fill out those two columns. You can certainly also fill out the time that you're thinking it's going to take you or the materials that you need, but certainly the most important aspect is the learning goal, how you're going to do it, and what's going to be achieved. And of course, you can make use of the PowerPoints I gave you for interactions, right? So those are fairly detailed PowerPoints with respect to the first, doing professional learning with respect to the first 2 units. So you could move forward with that. So with that, it's now about 11 after. I'm going to let Buren break us into breakout rooms. I'm going to give us about 30 minutes, which will take it to about quarter to the hour, 15 minutes to the hour. I will come into breakout rooms in about, I'll give you everybody a little bit of time to get started. And then I will come into the breakout rooms and provide people with feedback if they have questions. Any comments or questions? Kessler or Buren, you want to add something?
Mm. No, I think maybe for those who did not join yesterday, I think we would like to make this meeting session more like the planning, allow your team to have a planning time of developing the PD plan in details. And we learn from many groups that they start from overview of what target groups are you going to deliver the PD to. Right? And I think now we will dive into a more detailed plan that what kind of PD activities that you want to help and support teachers to achieve the learning goals that that Professor Joe is introducing to you to this by this worksheet. I think we look forward to to learning from you about the plan. And I think it's very important that we try to introduce the practices, the engineering practices, and also the scientific explanation that Professor Joe has introduced during, since November with Dr. Ann and Dr. Consuelo. So, and for today, for interactions, learning unit, we would like to, your team to think about how the learning units and the practices will be introduced to the teachers so that teachers can use them in their classroom. Right? And if your target group are the pre-service teaching students, so you will think about the coverage that what are you going to achieve to help support them in the learning goals. So I think let's see how each team will come up with. Thank you.
Good. So we'll go into our breakout rooms.
And
we'll be back in about
akhirnya nanti terancang final result yang paling bagus. Mungkin seperti itu Bu Murni.
Mungkin kita naik ke atas, yang paling atas di tabel ini ya. Jadi tadi yang di paling awal, atau bisa naik lagi Bu Ferus yang di pertanyaan nomor 1 itu. Oh ini ya, benar ya?
Yang mana Bu?
Yang nomor 1 di sininya. Oke, yang ini. Jadi kalau pertanyaannya itu kan pertanyaan-pertanyaan itu mengarah bagaimana caranya kita menyelenggarakan PD plan-nya ya. Nah, sebenarnya kemarin itu kita merancang PD plan kita kan sifatnya sangat sangat sederhana, jadi nggak terlalu melihat bahwa gimana caranya supaya teacher bisa understand, bisa bikin driving question sendiri, terus bisa sepakat dengan kita bahwa experiencing fenomena itu penting gitu ya. Nah itu semuanya kemarin kan saya waktu menyusun PD plan dengan teman-teman tidak memperhatikan itu gitu. Nah tapi di sini waktu itu PD plan kita kan cuma sekedar ada tema pertemuan kita bersepakat bahwa semua peserta itu harus diberi general understanding dulu tentang STEM, tentang scientific explanation, tentang CER, terus tentang scientific modeling gitu. Nah, ternyata kalau kita lihat pertanyaan-pertanyaan di sini, ada beberapa yang memang jadi membingungkan juga untuk
не определенных законностях, а мыслили больше феноменом, а потом уже пошли его изучать. Вот такая.
Подход немножко поменять, да, нетипичный типа для нас, вот что типа такого. Что он к логическому приходит, да, вот изучая все это.
Ага, и исходя из такой логики, общая типа цель была такова, что они улучшают свои навыки в STEM-образовании, плюс понимает ключевые, делая ключевые практические занятия, да. Потом дальше здесь они вот базовые знания свои используют, неважно, это биология, химия, физика, у них есть базовые знания, core ideas, потом cross-cutting concepts, у них, получается, пересекаются знания где-то, как бы межпредметно идет, да, и уже делают определенные практики, научные практики. То есть в этих юнитах все это есть. Да, то есть, когда их предметы пересекаются, когда они делают исследования, собирают анализы и так далее. И потом, и тем самым они понимают, почему феномен произошел, и как бы приводят как solution, решение проблем.
Решение,
Например,
да.
помните, у вас была идея, Ирина,
ក្រៅអំពី meeting តើយើងអាចធ្វើតាមរយៈអីទៀតបង
Bạn này có đúng?
ក្រៅអំពី meeting យើងអាចprovide project work ឲ្យគាត់បានទេ
Bạn này cũng nhưng cái ra nắng chia với bà mới thính nhưng thôi bạn nào mà đón phi đón đâu mà cái trắng này cũng trong đạn ha assign project work ấy này cũng
ចាខ្ញុំគិតថាមានយើងមាន meeting អាចមានជា project work មានជាអីចឹងមិនដែរលោកគ្រូ
bạn nhưng cái ra nắng việc
ចា
hai thắc work về từ mũi này cũng dương assign càng nghe quạt với đọc nó hay dương meet bài weekly đấy làm bài follow up hay là chui cái quạt nhưng đã
ចាចាំបងសម្រួលពាក្យទៅលោកគ្រូអ្នកគ្រូផ្សេងអូមេអនមេបណ្ណាណៃងាត់ឈឹងនឹងទៅណាទេចាំមើលញ៉ាសាទៅអត់ទៅខ្ញុំយកកន្លែងនោះបងជាប់ content using ឯងបង
mà nhầm lục dần lại nên nhóm đạn thì rất là dùng assign project work to basically to create modern teaching material or content but then we can meet with them bi-weekly or monthly as group meeting to discuss how we can improve on those. Using the engagement. Engagement.
អានេះបង
Okay, miền ấy
ពេ
tham
ក
thì
យើ
rất
ងនៅ
vui
សំណួរច្រើនណា
particular
Hả?
for teacher who traditional focus អូខេនេះយើងឆ្លើយដល់ហើយបាទ
ពេលយើងនិយាយ STEM ហ្នឹងមានន័យថាយើងសូលអាស័យ alone នឹងបាត់ដែរបងដោយសារយើងនិយាយពាក្យ STEM ហ្មង
បាទអញ្ចឹងមិនអ្នកគ្រូចង់លុបអានឹងចេញវិញហ៎
អត់ទេមិនមែនមានន័យថាលុបទេចង់និយាយថាគេ note ថា particularly for teacher who traditional focus on solely learning science alone គេចង់ថាយើងជួយមិនជាពិសេសទៅលើគ្រូដែលគាត់បរៀនតែ
We've been talking about this question, number 2. How will you help teachers to support their students experiencing meaningful phenomenon? I'm not sure what is this question means.
Well, it means how as professional learners will you support teachers in understanding that it's critical for students to experience scientific phenomena, if they're really going to learn the science concepts. So that's what it's meant. If it was unclear, I apologize, right? So it's all these questions are directed to you as facilitators, and that what will you do, and maybe you don't have to do it. Maybe they understand the value of phenomena, but the goal is to help as you as facilitators to support your teachers in understanding that if we're really going to get kids to really learn science, we have to get them involved in experiencing phenomena firsthand. And often, and again, I don't know, like in the United States, a lot of teachers are really concerned just with covering the content, right? But the kids don't experience phenomena. Science is just a bunch of words, right? So the way we're trying to change it is by having kids realize that science is all about explaining events in the real world that happen. So that's what that question meant.
Yeah,
Okay. So meaning that the teachers to support their student experience meaningful phenomena. So meaning that we'll try to let the teachers to experience firsthand of the phenomena.
Right. So it's sort of how do you support the teachers in helping them understand that experiencing phenomena is really a critical part of science teaching.
Oh, okay. So by that explanation, Daddy and I talking about the first PD goal that you gave us and what we plan to do. I think this goal is quite related to the question number 1 and 2 that you gave us, the importance and appropriate the context. So we think we will demonstrate a workshop by selecting some labs from the unit that you gave us, and the teachers will take role as students. So they will do the lab and use the scientific practice. And after they finish the activity, we will have the debriefing question that teachers will discuss and think about what scientific concepts and skill they learn from the activity, how these concepts and skills important to students, and is the pedagogy used in the unit are different from the pedagogies they usually use, and what are the benefits and limitations of the pedagogy, and is the phenomena used in the unit is appropriate to the students and how they will adjust it. Is that do you think is that cover the learning goal?
So I really like your debriefing questions. I think in my own professional development work, we always do debriefing, right? So we do very often what we do is allow the teachers to take part in an experience like you did. So they're gonna experience some of the lessons in the interactions curriculum. And then once they experience it, then we ask the debrief debriefing questions.
Mm.
The only thing I would say here is that contextualization is more related to creating a meaningful environment to the students rather than the content. So the content is very important. I'm not trying to, right? That I think is related to question number 1 more. I can't, if you could scroll up.
Okay.
Right, so no, yeah, I guess up, yeah, that's right. I can open mine up too. Go up to question 1.
Okay.
Right, how you support teachers to help them understanding him, no. So, where's, you help your teacher understand learning goals. So it's more related to 3, right? So the content is much more related to 3 than it is contextualization. So contextualization, at least the way we were talking about it earlier on, is what are you gonna do to really what are you gonna do to help develop a classroom where kids see what they're learning is important to them, right? Often kids don't necessarily see why learning the science content is important. So what are you gonna do to have them realize the science content is important? It's sort of setting the context. It could be having them experience the phenomena. Is one way to do that, right? But it's also raising the driving question. So all these things about kids experiencing meaningful phenomena, kids asking questions, the teacher introducing a driving question. These are all various ways of setting context. So I like your questions that you asked, and I liked a lot of the parts there. Just that by contextualization, we mean how do you create a classroom environment where kids can find what they're doing important to their lives, meaningful to their lives. But I like your questions, and I think that's a really important aspect that we should do. That having these debriefing sessions where the teachers reflect on some of those types of questions after doing an experience is really important.
All right. Thank you.
Kesra, do you have any comments related to that?
Yeah, so because when you say about contextualization, I mean like how we help teachers to help students realize the importance, right, of that topic or the phenomena that teachers will introduce to them, right? And then what kind of process that teachers will do, right, to help a student realize that how it may be applicable to their life, to their daily life, or the benefits of learning them. But what will be the process, right? That teachers will organize, or what kind of learning activities, or the kind of environment that you mentioned, right? So in the PD, do we need to simulate that kind of learning process that student, because you have the simulation, right, that they will take the role as student or learners, right? So to set the scene, that the contextualization at the beginning, that like yesterday that Dr. Ann mentioned about the water quality, right?
Right. So the water quality and the health at our hand units are probably better examples of contextualization, right? So for Ann, you're gonna you can take your kids on a stream walk, and you can discuss the importance of fresh water, right? What happens if we don't have fresh water, right? That's why Ann's unit starts. It starts by a discussion of why is fresh water important, and why do we have to protect it so much? And the health in our health, and often that's not a way that we typically, we're just going to have kids understand what pH is. And of course, pH is an important concept. As a chemist, I see that, but kids aren't going to, kids need to have if they're really going to develop deep learning, They really have to have a reason for why they're learning what they're learning. And so when you take them on a stream walk and they realize that, look at clean water is really critical. And if we make our water too acidic, it kills all the organisms in it. That's a bad thing. If you go to health in our hands, the contextualization there, as we talked about yesterday, is, you know, how can it possibly be that a young woman, a young teenager can actually develop a diabetes, right? That's the contextualization. So learning about how we can prevent those kind of diseases in ourselves and our families is really critical. In interactions, what we're talking about today, it's more of a fundamental science thing, right? How come things stick together, right? Why is this table a solid table? Why can't I push my finger through it? How comes things stick to me? So I don't know if my guess is that you know, the opening example that we use in the interaction unit is like often sometimes, at least in the United States, I don't think this happens in your area of the world, in Thailand, because it's too humid. But when we take things out of the dryer, which, you know, we use to dry our clothes, or sometimes otherwise, things stick to us. And so why do things stick to us? Why does that thing stick to us? How come it's so, and if that clothes example doesn't work, often, you know, if you take a plastic bag, like a garbage bag, it clings together. So why does that happen, right? So that's the contextualization for there, having them realize why things stick together, right? So that's what we mean by contextualization.
So, Joe, may I ask to clarify? To the contextualization, does it need even help students to be curious about the phenomena? Do you call that contextualization, or it has to go to the realization of the curiosity of the phenomena because it applies to their life, daily life, the benefits?
So
At what
I think,
level? Yeah,
right,
that you
I think there's
contextualize.
that's a really good question, Kesra. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, actually. But that's a wonderful question, because there's a range in which you can contextualize what we're looking. So
Yeah.
one of the aspects for me as a scientist, I hope I can have kids wonder about phenomena, like, why does this happen? Right? That's a one very important way of contextualizing. And of course, why things stick together is how we can build new molecules. So it has lots of ramifications, but at first, just getting them to wonder about why things stick together is, you know, it's through experiencing phenomena like we do in the interactions curriculum, where you can put those pie plans on a Van der graph, and they first stick together, but if we turn on the Van der graph, they fly off, right? Why does that happen? Why does this wig, if we put a wig on that, or a hair, stick out if we put our hands on the Van der graph? Now, I think because you're in this, you know, you're near the equator and it's so humid, some of those demos won't work. So you have to figure out what are the static electricity phenomena that actually work and that will stick together in your environment. I don't know all that. So you might have to find out what those are. But I think you can contextualize everything from getting kids to wonder about a scientific phenomena, about why does that happen, and get them curious, all the way to having them realize that this is important for our lives, right? So how do we prevent young children, young adults from getting type 2 diabetes, right? That's a different way of, a different kind of contextualization. Both are important, but there are different ways of doing it.
Okay, thank you. Darren, do you have anything to add or input to the contextualization?
No, I know some approach or technique. What I learned in the courses, it's called SPY. When you go to another group and just listening, what's happening. Yeah, for example, when you do something with children, you can teach them some technique. It's called SPY. and some from one group can go to another group and just see what they do. Just to compare and
Okay, now you do the swipe. Okay.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go pop into another breakout room and see how they're going, unless you have some other questions for me.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
Okay. So, looks like we are going okay on the first goal. Shall we move to the next goal? Teachers will apply appropriate techniques in helping students write scientific explanation. Techniques.
What exactly will they do to support that goal? Okay. What learning experience? Okay, in teachers be the experience to reach that goal. Okay. How do we support them? Teacher will apply appropriate technique. Okay. So
Well, one thing is we can demonstrate. We can use some techniques during the time that we demonstrate the workshop, like for example the questioning techniques, or what else should we use? Questioning.
Ну, вот оно,
what other?
да.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Oh,
Hi, Joe.
I stopped in before and you guys were busy working away in Kazakhstan, so I didn't want to interrupt you, but then I heard that you needed me for a little bit, so I thought I'd pop back in, and here I am.
Okay, so we were a little bit debating between like which step we should do first, but this is a draft. We didn't know that we should send you the draft to the interaction part. So this is a draft we have done this morning for tonight's sessions. So, and we may just read it off this one. So if we choose should we choose the goal more broad or more concise in terms of the interaction? Like a direct.
You know, today's session is particularly supposed to be focusing on interactions. But if you want to pick a broader one, like how can I support, what can I do to support the teachers to help them support their students in writing evidence-based explanations, you know, that I think that's fine.
Okay.
Right? So
Yeah. So
go
we kind of did the two things. So the first row, this row totally says about the broad idea and how we see our course to our tutors. And the second row, this one, about more particularly interaction. So could you compare it or go to interaction and say your feedback?
Right. Could you do me a favor? Could you make the big, yes, thank you. I couldn't read it. Thank you.
So this is the interaction part. Do you want to go the broad one?
I can read both of them.
Okay, so which one first? Oh, all right, the first one.
Okay, so I would, again, Kesra is here too, I believe. And so she can respond to this one. To me, this could be this could be like a really overall, the first one you have, teachers, this is what our hope, our end goal, right? Of actually doing all three of the units is to help teachers build this capacity of understanding high quality, to really understand quality STEM units, right? That's our goal in the end. But I'm not exactly sure what you would do specifically in a PD to do that, right? There's a big goal by having them actually experience quality STEM units that they will then learn these essential practices. So that's a big, nice overarching goal. But what we're hoping that you will do is get more specific. So if you go to your second goal, the
Um,
one on forces,
yeah.
right? So this one, from my working with Teachers United States, they do have limited understanding of forces and interactions. And so helping them understand this notion about forces and how forces actually is what results in things sticking together, right? Is I find very important because many teachers lack this understanding that it's forces between substances, between particles that actually hold things together. So I think that's an important learning goal. If I was teaching interactions, I certainly I would delve into that because I know in the United States, a lot of teachers don't have that at the 9th grade level, don't have that depth of understanding. So I'd want to make sure they understand that. So then I would ask myself, how am I going to go about doing that? And then how would I assess that?
We kind of thought in the same way and wrote, this is like a, this might be as a draft, but this is a learning goal. Like we went through the whole unit, like Darwin went through the physics part, I'm as a biology, the biology part and the chemistry as well. And then we saw the one line which goes from the unit 1 to the unit 4 about the energy, about the like how in small things interact with each other in terms of biology or in terms of chemistry or physics. And we thought like if we will give this course to our teachers, it will help them in understanding the fundamental about the forces and then how our life shapes and about the interaction and matter of energy. Like that's the broad idea. And then we move on to the question, like what exactly we will do to support and what learning experiences teachers will in PD. So, and then they will do the list of the practices from the units to give a more sense, because all unit is aligned with each other, like and well designed, and then how we will assess it. So the teacher must come with idea in the end that from the whole unit that all the substances or like consist of the energy and matter and how they interact with each other. It's like a shortened version of our vision.
Right. So the only I don't know what you mean. So I have a question. So when you say list of practices and their core ideas, I don't know what the teachers are doing.
We were thinking about that we will use the Concord Consortium and then the simulations there
Experiments
and use
from the website.
And those practices.
From interaction curriculum, we will choose experiments and investigations.
Okay, so that's a little bit different, right? So that's what I mean. I didn't understand. That's why I asked the question. What did you mean by list? So I think, and again, it could be our language. You're from Kazakhstan and I'm from America, so I can't imagine you're translating all my English into Kazakhstan really quick in your head. So I like what I just heard. The idea is you're going to have the teachers experience. So if that's what you mean by list of practices and your core ideas, have the teachers experience some of the experiences, have the teachers actually experience some of the lessons in interactions to deal with these fundamental ideas of energy and forces and how they cause things to stick together. I think that's great, right? But I would elaborate that because that's, to me, when I read list of practices and their core ideas, that's not what that says to me. So it's, you could have written that in Kazakhstan, but I can't read Kazakhstan, so I don't know. But the goal, so if the goal is the teachers will gain an important an understanding of the fundamental forces and energy that results in the interactions of matter. And then the way you're going to do that is by having the teachers actually experience some of the key lessons in interactions. I think that's very appropriate.
Experience key lessons.
Yeah, that's what was said. I can't.
Ah.
His name right now is in Kazakhstan, so I can't read his name either. So that's what was said, right? The teachers will experience key lessons from the interactions unit that actually focuses on the interactions of matter and energy, right? So for instance, one of the early on ones is the idea of the sticky tape. I don't know if you guys looked at that one, but the sticky tape experiment where, you know, you rip the two pieces of Scotch tape off. And if you haven't done that one, it's really a great experience, right? You can actually tear pieces of Scotch tape off one another. And I think I showed that video in our previous, right? They attract each other or they repel each other. So what's going on there? Why do they attract? Why do they repel? That's a great beginning part for getting kids to wonder about what's going on. Why all of a sudden those things, sometimes they repel, sometimes they attract. What's going on? Can I draw a model of it, right? So having the teachers experience that lesson and then actually themselves trying to draw a model is actually a really, would be a great way of going about doing that. So that would be one of the, as far as, you know, when I talk to Kesra, that's the level of detail that we'd like you to get in. Like, how are you going to help the teachers understand these fundamental ideas? Well, you're gonna select various experiences to have the teachers do, and you should list those experiences, right? So one of the experiences could be the Scotch tape experiment, and there's a variety of other, you know, you can go through the materials and pick out other ones that you'd want them to do.
Okay, so so you want to say like we not necessarily need to use that Concord. We might came up with the related experiences about the energy. Am I right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So and where the list of practices we should add details.
Yeah, I just didn't understand. So for me, list of practices. So when I use the word list, it just means writing things down. That's
first, second,
like,
third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
yeah, and that's not necessarily going to support someone in learning, right? So the having teachers experience the Scotch tape experiment and draw a model about why that happened would get them involved in exactly doing that, right? So that's that to me would be something that would link back.
Yeah, I think because the plan can, if you write a plan and the readers can be your team members or others, right, can understand that what teachers will do, right, in the activities. Similar to the lesson plan, when teachers develop the lesson plan for their student to do, right? So if you can be able to help others understand that in the PD session, what teachers are going to do as their trainer, what you are going to do to help them. In this case, Joe mentioned about conducting an experiment, right? Then so that will help the readers and Professor Joe to provide comments or input later. Yeah.
Okay, so are we in a right direction? We just want to, you know, because we've been moving around back and forth again and again. We're a little bit confused. So our kind of team members confused, and we have a lot of questions. And we just want to make sure that we are going the right direction in terms of those questions in the above and our answer. So is it right? Are we doing like okay? You know?
Yeah, I think in my view now, the second questions that you start, right, and then with the details that you put in, I think that's kind of the, in my view, is the right direction. The first question, I think that because this is a subset of how you can help teachers understand the first question, right? Because this one is more specific about using the experiencing the unit, right? And then if teachers can answer the second question, they will be able to answer the you will help them to achieve their first learning goal. Am I right? But if you introduce them without the learning units, it would be very difficult. This is my opinion. Joe, what do you think? Because the first goal is, yeah, for me, it's like overarching goal. And then you do the introducing the learning unit, and then teacher will understand what you like to achieve in the first question.
The first question was the broader one.
Yeah.
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 So, right, so if what I understand is that they wrote that, like when I do professional learning, we go down to these details, like I'm trying to get you to go right now, right? What is the learning goal and how we're going to accomplish it? And then how am I going to know that I really met it? Now, the only thing that I would add is that sometimes the experiences that you provide for teachers can help meet more than one learning goal, right? So for instance, if you have teachers actually do the tape experience, that's not only helping them learn about the science concepts of various kind of interactions that happen between matter. It also focuses on children experience. It also focuses on the notion of experiencing phenomena, because there's phenomena in there, right? There's this tape, and depending on how we rip it off, right, it's either going to attract or it's going to repel. So that's so it also meets that learning goal. And of course, it meets another learning goal as well, because if we have them actually do that entire activity, you're going to have to get your teachers to draw a model. So it helps them understand a scientific practice as well. Right, but so often what can happen is once you write out your learning goals and you pick these activities, you'll start to realize that in fact, what's going on is you can actually meet more than one learning goal through an experience. So that's the only thing I would add.
Okay, and last question, but not least, so what about the learning goal? Should we answer all those questions and then came up to learning goal, or should we just, because before and our colleagues also thought we should just pick up one question and turn it into the goal, the answer.
Right.
No.
Well, that was just to give you practice in doing it, because
I see. So it was as a just example,
because
right?
we weren't right. We got around 7 or 8, plans for everybody, and like you said, people are not going in the directions we had hoped. So we obviously weren't providing enough support for you. So I was trying to help people. I was trying to provide more support. And so that's why I said to my, these are the questions I asked myself, right? How am I going to get this done? What am I going to do with a group of teachers that I have in front of me? How am I going to help them understand how to help their children, how their learners, their students write scientific explanations, right? So I asked, those are the questions I ask. So I might have missed some of the questions I asked myself, but I try to be pretty inclusive in the questions I asked, right? So you can then turn those questions. You're not necessarily going to answer those questions. You can, but those are basically writing your learning goal, right? So you have your question, you have your learning goal associated with that question, and then you have then you do something in the professional learning. The only thing I didn't mention, because I didn't want to get people confused, is often more than one learning goal can actually be met by having the students experience, the teachers experience something.
Okay, so we not necessarily need to answer all of those questions, right?
Well, you should pick the ones that you find important, right? So those questions should be, what do you want your teachers really to learn, right? So for instance, Kessler would like to make sure, and I agree, that you want to make sure that you help your teachers understand various scientific practices. That's a key aspect of what this project is supposed to be about. So to leave that out would be detrimental. But for instance, you could have could you blow your screen up again a little bit?
Sure,
I
sure,
can't
sure.
read it. Yeah. Now just go up to the one on modeling, right? So the question on modeling is
This one?
right here, right. So how will you support teachers so they can support their students in knowing how to construct a model? So that's a question that could then have the learning goal. Teachers will know how to support their students in constructing and revising models to explain phenomena. So if we convert that one into a learning goal, that teachers will be able to support their students in constructing and revising scientific models. That would also fit, right, with that same experience. And if you scroll down,
One second.
go to the activity that yeah. So that would actually work, right? So if you put another column in there, that same learning goal will actually work if the teachers having this teachers experience the Scotch tape experiment, right? So you will be able to meet at least two learning goals with that experience of having them experience the tape experience.
Okay,
I
I see.
ask about modeling. For example, we know about stage modeler, and can we use another type of modelers? For example, not only websites. I mean, drawing something, painting, or like DIY, doing with your hands something.
Sure. If you remember correctly, that's what we started off. I didn't start off with having you use Sage Model. We started off by having you first construct a paper pencil model. So in fact, all of Interactions does not use Sage Model. Interactions uses this paper pencil models. It's actually instead of paper pencil, it's actually on the web, but it doesn't matter, right? You can use some tools on the web, or some drawing tools on the web, or you can just use paper pencil. It doesn't really matter. Right?
Doing
So that's
something
fine.
handmade, can we do?
Can you what?
Can we do something with our hand? I mean, for example, modeling, like
you could, if you want to model, have them model using three-dimensional models, that's fine, right? Models can be two-dimensional, they can be three-dimensional, right? It doesn't, that's up to you, right? The important thing is to get kids to construct models that actually explain the phenomena as we discussed.
Okay, thank you. I have another question.
Okay.
So you see our curriculum, physics, it's actually physics curriculum. We don't have science subject as science. It's for physics curriculum, and in 8th grade, we have this chapter. In December, we have this chapter called electrostatics. So it's very close to interaction. For example, we have learning goals here. It's given from the ministry, and we cannot change these goals. Is it visible?
So, so you're right.
So I wrote
unit one of interactions, right? The first unit actually focuses on static electricity. And so a lot of these, you might have to add some stuff. So for instance, what's not in interactions is we don't calculate the forces acting on the charge. We don't do that, right? So you'd have to do that. But certainly Coulomb's law is applicable in that first unit.
Yeah, I know we can add some like problems or tasks for our listeners, of course. But for example, in this chapter, in our education system, we have potential difference and capacitor. And as I know, there is no capacitor, I think, in the units. And then we go to electricity. So I need your suggestion how to better implement units to our curriculum, for example. And another problem is just 7 hours for this chapter.
7 hours.
Yeah, it's but we have more hours in 10th grade.
So one of the things you could do is within the context of interactions, to me it seems it certainly seems viable to add Coulomb's law. I'm not exactly sure how I would add capacitors. I'd have to think about it a little bit, right? So the units aren't going to be necessarily fit your curriculum 100%. So you might have to add some things or add something extra at the end. But the goal would be that in Kazakhstan, you engage your kids actually in writing explanations and in drawing models, having them ask questions related to phenomena, having them experience phenomena firsthand. But I'll let Kesra chime in on that.
Yeah.
We consider it like extra hours. I mean, like extra investigations, for example, like a home task, doing at home. Maybe.
Yeah, I think we can do it either way, right? If you are able to find, I don't know, the alternative hours, right, for students to learn, that will not be burdensome for both sides, or for teachers and for you. And what Joe mentioned about introducing those practices into your existing curricula, the use of the CER to help students make explanation and also the modeling. Either you adopt the units. If the unit cannot fit in, can you add something that that you can still cover your standards, right? Or if you adopt the practices instead, right, so that you can benefit from this practice and help students explain better using the CER and modeling. I think it can be either. Yeah, and maybe Joe can help think about if you maybe can share this with Joe, so that maybe he can help think about how the interaction unit can be adopted that can fit in with your standards. Yeah.
May I say something? So we have revised the unit, like each part and each investigation. So and the same thing with biology part. So there are the like a microbiology, and within the 10th grade, there are some only 2 goals, learning goals, as here written, which meet with the unit. So can we like partially adapt some of the practices or the ideas from those units? So we're not going to take the whole unit all in, right? So our goal is to implement it somehow to the educational standard of Kazakhstan, rather than giving them extra like a curriculum or extra facultative hours, extra hours, you know, because it's not successful because like a teacher's lack of time at the school, and they not do some additional work. So it will be better to show them the importance of CER probably and implement partially. But is it okay to implement them? So so it would be Like at school, the water unit is only had a 3 hours, only 3 hours. But the water quality unit is a
Yeah,
huge.
the same with water. Water quality, I mean,
With all unit the same thing.
Yeah, I think
how many hours?
yes, it can be according to what you think appropriate. And I think this is also depending on the project management team's ultimate goal, right? That do you think that this unit will help students understand uh, the the concepts and be able to practice better if it implemented this way, right? If you would like to prove so that the policymakers can learn about it, and maybe in the future they want to improve their existing curricula into a more integrated way. I think this depends on your goal as a like maybe the vision that what you would like to benefit from this program. There might be some schools that they can work around the instructional time. There might be some schools that they have to follow the existing curricula. I leave this to your decision, that what you would like to do with the units. Right? And like I said, in Thailand, we have some schools that they have that they are very ready to implement something that are more project-based learning because of the structure allows that, right? But some school they don't, right? So you might have different schools, contexts that implement at different level, and some school who cannot implement to a full level, you might adopt the practices, right? Or adopt some lessons. But do you want to compare? I think this is also depend on the country goal, right?
I need to say you some secret
Excuse
about
me.
our
I think
schools.
we should go back to our main room now.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
So we can create extra. So we can create extra curriculum. Yeah, I understand.
You can
Yeah,
have it in the big room, I
But we're
guess.
afraid that not all schools will use it. I mean, they can say in a paper officially they use, but in fact, actually not. So we're afraid of this.
yeah. I think we can discuss in the big room. I think this depend on the team, the vision of the team, right? And maybe the vision that we would like to prove something to the policymakers, that we tried out something so that this can influence their direction.
No, where's Monroe located? No.
I think we're all back, maybe not yet. We're almost all back. So I had I had two good conversations, one with Kazakhstan and one with Thailand. And unfortunately, they took much longer than I expected. So I didn't get around to everybody. I did actually pop into some other breakout rooms, and you were busy talking in your home languages. So I decided not to interrupt. but I did have some fruitful conversations in both in Kazakhstan and in the Thailand group. And I'm going to actually ask Abagama if she could share their plans, or if Irini will share their plan, if someone will share their plans from Kazakhstan. And I'm just going to discuss a little bit about what we did. And then they may have a couple more questions as well. So, because they started to fill out the table, and I thought it looked okay. So, and then I want to go to the Thailand group, and I want to share what some of these questions that the Thailand group came up with for debriefing. So, Agama,
yeah, I'm ready. So,
and do you want
the
to
interaction part?
Yeah, do you want to explain what we talked about there?
All right, I will try. Okay, so I'm not a physicist. Darren, do you want to explain, or
Explain about interaction or just ideas?
the idea, the whole line?
Yeah, okay, I can explain. So we had the two learning goals. First of all is just general goal of our, let's say, course. And the next second one, yeah, about interaction. So we think our goal, learning goal, it's a teacher will gain an understanding of the fundamental forces. I mean, fundamental like laws of nature. So which shape our lives through interactions of matter and energy. So we know as scientists, I mean, we know that the concept of energy, concept of forces and matter, it's very important in any science, including physics, biology, and chemistry. So what, how are we going to, can you, покажи мне начало. Yeah, what exactly will we do to support this goal? So we are going to create some list of our practices. We will take these practices from the unit. There are 4 sub-units and with a lot of investigations. So we want to create some list of practices like with a drawing machine, with a laundry, something else. And we want to write in detail their core ideas, for example, practice for understanding force, for understanding energy interactions. So we'll take activities from the units. Teachers will experience key lessons, Scotch tape experiment, and it's just some example what teachers are going to do. We think approximately 24 hours because our course is 72 hours, so we just divide on 3 units and 24 hours each unit. Can you go up? I don't know. Подними. Нет, это опустить. Yeah, еще. Okay, thank you. So next, teachers must come to the idea that substances interact with each other through the force or energy or matter. And we will came to that idea through solving practical problems. And materials, what we need, it's we didn't create yet, but I think we need a lot of materials.
So yeah, shortly, basically our idea was since the first day, Joe keep telling about the scientific practices, importance of the learning and making the good explanation. So and the main goal of the unit is, I think, the the theory about the energy go align with from the beginning, the first unit to the fourth, and the fourth unit about the biology, and they're also about the energy. In deep, it's about the energy, even it's the context about the amino acids. That's how the proteins interact with the like each other. So that's why we choose the main goal to kind of show the how the matter and energy and how the things stick together, or how they interact with each other, and all rest of the part goes after that. Try to kind of meet this goal. That's it.
Right. So one of
The
the
core idea of unit is understand that substances can interact with each other through field. Field, substance, matter. It's basic concepts of nature and science.
And one of the other discussions we had that I'd like to add is that let's assume they actually go about doing this, the tape experiment, right? So if you're doing the tape experiment, then one of the goals is for the students, or in this case, the teachers, also to draw a model about why this happens. And of course, if they draw a model for why this happens, this will also reach one of the other learning goals, which is how do you support teachers in helping their students draw models that can actually explain phenomena. So often when you, and I didn't bring this up yesterday because I didn't want to get it too complex, but often if you list one of your learning goals and you have an experience that the teachers actually go through, in this case, the experience is actually carrying forth the Scott's tape experiment, they'll also get involved, and teachers will be able to know how to support their students in constructing and revising scientific models. So often more than one learning goal, and sometimes 3 or 4 learning goals, can actually be met. Because in this one as well, there's another learning goal, which is related to kids experiencing phenomena, right? Teachers will know how to experience, teachers will know how to have their students experience scientific phenomena that relate to important scientific concepts. So you could actually reach 3 learning goals by having the teachers do this one experience. Now, if they, I'm going to try to put 2 of the discussions that I had together. Well, first of all, let me see if anybody has any questions for the Pakistan colleagues on what they did here. Okay, well, I don't see any questions coming up in their chat or any hands. So I would love to have the Thailand group put their list of questions on it and explain their list of debriefing questions. Could someone from the Thailand group?
Yeah, let me share the screen.
Okay, great.
Okay. My group is actually me from Thailand and Daddy from Brunei. We are not not only Thailand. So they from what we talked in our group, by having teachers able to set an appropriate context and be able to explain why setting a meaningful context is important, we designed to use the demonstration of a workshop. Maybe selecting one lab from Consortium and have the teachers take the role as the students themselves. And by doing the activity, they will experience the use of scientific practice and create a CER. So after the activity, we will have the debriefing questions, and these are our questions. What scientific concepts and skills you learn from the activity? How these concepts and skills important to students? Is the pedagogy used in the activity different from pedagogies you usually use in your classroom? What are the benefits and limitations of the pedagogies? And the last question is, are the phenomena from the unit appropriate to your students, and how will you adjust it? So by the debriefing questions, we hope that the teachers will learn the importance of the using the contextualized unit and guiding them to create their own.
So I thank you very much. I really like these debriefing questions. Actually, typically when I do professional learning, we do something very similar to what we just heard. We have this teachers experience something, and then we actually have them debrief the activities. And these are really good debriefing questions for various activities, right? So is the pedagogy used in this activity different from the pedagogy usually used? And how's that going to actually affect you, right? What's the benefits and the limitations of these new pedagogies? So if you're doing a model or if you're doing an explanation, what's the benefit of it? What's going to be the limitations? So from my perspective, always having your teachers reflect on the activity, the experience they just had, and how does it relate to their own teaching, I think is really critical. And I particularly find critical number 5, which is this phenomenon actually going to be meaningful to your students? If not, how might you adjust it so that it becomes more meaningful? So I really like these set of questions. And the reason why I wanted this group to present these questions is I think you want to build these debriefing sessions into your own professional learning, right? So every time you have your teachers do an experience, they do the experience and then you debrief that experience. What are the important science concepts that students are learning in this activity? What are the important scientific practices that they are learning? How are the pedagogies beneficial or not beneficial to students? And how might you modify this activity or this experience? How might you modify this phenomena so it's actually more meaningful for your students? So I think this debriefing is a really important aspect. So I wanted to thank them. I thought I was really pleased when I saw them raise these debriefing experiences. Questions? Any comments or questions? And then so then I'm going to go on to, if there's no comments or questions, are there any comments from the group for anything to the Thailand group and the Bruin group? Any questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a question. For
Yes.
so for the Kazakhstan group, if, for example, if we do not have funded graph machines, so how will you plan to do the experiment? Because it's written that one of the tools that, or one of the experiment tools that you will use is a funded graph machine. In case of my university or some schools in Indonesia, we do not have that machine. So we are thinking, our team in physics, thinking about using the other equipment to do the same experiment.
Yeah, not all schools in Kazakhstan also have Van de Graaff machine. It was just like example, just for example. It's not how to say final document. It's just draft.
We just meant that like we just listed the materials. If we're gonna use the unit or part of the unit, we should kind of think about what kind of materials we will use. And during our breakout room sessions, we figured out we can implement some other experiments or probably related experiments to meet the goal or to explain the phenomena better if we don't have some particular. And Professor Joe also said that we might use or implement some other experiments if we have, or like a practical experiments.
Explaining the same phenomena.
Okay, thank you. And for the Thai group, I also have questions about the briefing question. We in Indonesia, we actually put it as a reflective part after they implement the one of unit lesson, but we have not yet make some detailed question like Thai group have made. So it's really interesting. But my question is, I have not seen the question about how they think about the driving questions. How will you, I mean, how will you manage or how will you train the teachers as a participants to understand well about the driving question?
Oh, okay, thank you. We actually have talked about the technique. So the driving question is also part of the techniques that we will discuss with the teachers. But after starting the workshop and have teachers experiencing the role as a learner for the workshop and the debriefing, we will discuss about the teaching techniques and methods in the activity. We will have them discuss if they figure out what kind of questioning techniques and what kind of questions and methods we use in the workshop, and we will demonstrate more of the options of techniques that they can use in the classroom. Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I wonder if people are interested in those questions, I wonder if you could put them in the chat. If you could copy them and drop them into the chat, then everybody else can copy them. Or we could maybe put it in the folder, in our Google folder, then other people could get access to those debriefing questions too, if people wanted them. You know, another important point came up in the conversation with Kazakhstan, and that is that the units don't necessarily match totally, or the units don't match the standards that are in the country. So for instance, the water quality unit only has like a couple of things that match Kazakhstan, and yet it's a really long unit. And so the question got raised, what do we do? And, you know, what I would suggest is, as far as I understand the goals of the project, is to bring teaching techniques, pedagogy, instructional techniques into the various countries that we know are research-based and have evidence that support kids in learning. So it's not necessarily, the units are to demonstrate, but really what they want to see happening in the classrooms is a switch away from the teacher just telling information. And Kesra, please chime in or correct me, but a switch away from teachers just telling and talking about the science to kids actually engaging and doing the science. So we want kids to construct models. We want kids to construct and revise models. We want kids to construct scientific explanations with evidence. We want them to engage in designing and doing investigations where the kids actually collect data and analyze that data so they can actually use it as part of their explanations. So that's the end goal of the project, is really to have more of these active pedagogies. And we were hoping that by that by sharing these lessons or these units, it will give you, you could use these in your professional learning, and the teachers could use them in their classrooms to really illustrate, really learn how to do these practices. Kessler, I don't know if you want to chime in there.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I think it's the ultimate goal. Yeah, that the project provide the learning units that allowed teachers to use those practices, right? And then so that students learn. Yeah. Yes, that is the ultimate goal. Mm.
And so the planning sheet from the Thai, etc. group is actually in the Dropbox right now. So if you wanna, you can download it, and then you'd have that set of questions, which would be very valuable. So I am gonna have to leave because I have to get to my regular job. I wasn't able to get there. I think sometimes you see me in my office early in the morning. I wasn't able to get to my office early enough today, so I'm gonna have to run and get to my office for my day to start. We will continue this work on Tuesday,
Mhm.
and it would be great on Tuesday. And Tuesday we go to Health in Our Hands, and so between now and Tuesday, I think it would be, we'll give you some time in your breakout rooms again. But if you could come up with some learning goals for the Health in Our Hands unit, and how will you help teachers meet those learning goals, and how will you know if they actually meet them, that would be a great head start. So if, even if you worked individually, and then you can share it with the people in your country at the workshop, right? So it would be great between now and Tuesday to craft some learning goals for Health in Our Hands, and then we'll spend time again in breakout rooms, and then hopefully we'll have some time, hopefully more time than we had today, to basically go over them. And then on Wednesday, I believe we either pick up with Ann or interactions again, and then on Thursday we do either Ann or interactions again. So we want to start across the next week, actually getting more refined plans in how you're going to do this. So it might be, like for instance, on Monday or on Tuesday, it might be really beneficial for you to think about how are you going to get students in, how are you going to support your teachers to write scientific explanations within the Health in Our Hands unit. Might be a nice goal for you to think about that between now and then. Are there any comments or questions from anybody? I know some of you had some false starts, and I know that's frustrating. And I apologize that, we have a lot of, there's some wonderful things about this project, right? What's the wonderful thing about this project? Well, here we are, we're 5 different nations, right? Including the United States, all talking about how to change pedagogy. How amazing is that? That's like amazing, right? On the other hand, that means we bring 5 different languages to bear. And that gets a challenge to get things across. And so, so I really apologize. I know it can be frustrating to work hard and you take a false start. And we're going to continue to working to try to get us all going, because the goal is really to have all kids in our nations to really experience and love science and really develop the knowledge that they need in the world in which they're growing in, the world they'll grow into, right? We really have to help our kids really learn some challenging concepts and to make use of them, right? Not just to pass a test, but be able to use them both in their work life and in their daily lives to make sound decisions. So the wonderful things about this project are also some of the strikes that we have against us, right? That we actually have 5 nations talking about science education is great. On the other hand, we have this crazy language barrier. So hopefully we'll continue to to work things out, and you will have great experiences in your professional learning. And with that, I'm really going to have to leave. I know, Kessler, do you have any last words?
No, I think I think this is the beauty of the project, right? We learn together, and then I think we learn from each other as well, for the common goal, right? For our young people, right? So I like to thank you everyone for sticking to this project together. And it's long hours that you have to work extra to, in addition to your regular work. Yeah, I really appreciate it, and I thank Joe for also dedicating your time. Yeah, for this. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So off to work, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Everybody have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you. I will see you on your evening on Tuesday, and you'll see me on my morning on Tuesday. So have a good weekend, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, have a good night and have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you very much.